What's up guys, my name's Sawyer Hartman, and today my objective is to hopefully take your Lightroom editing to the next level. Whether you're just starting out in photo editing or you're quite advanced, it is extremely important and beneficial to watch other creators' editing process. This way you can learn tools that you didn't know were possible, as well as apply those to your own work. So without further ado, let's just get started. Welcome to the tutorial, everybody. I hope you enjoy this video. My goal for this is not to give you a step-by-step instruction of how to achieve certain looks, but more to start my editing from scratch on a few photos to be able to show you why I'm doing what I do. So enough of me talking, let's just start editing some photos. So the first photo we have here is from my time on the Big Island visiting a waterfall. Now, it's a pretty well exposed photo. The sky is a little bit bright, but the first thing I'll say about this photo is I'm not a huge fan of green. So I'm going to be trying to darken this image and making it look a little dramatic. Now for reference, I have two packs of presets. Both are going to be in the link down below. For this video, we'll call them preset pack 1 and preset pack 2. So as you can see right here, if we go to the fashion filter preset, this is kind of the color that I would be going for. This is my perfect world for this photo. This preset obviously is quite intense, as you can see in the before and after, but let's start the edit from scratch and see what we can get to. So the first thing I would do on this type of photo is open up my basic controls, and I'm gonna just try to get everything exposed where I want. I'm gonna bring up the exposure, I'm gonna bring up the contrast. I'm actually gonna lower the highlights, but raise the whites. This personally helps me from overexposing the shirt, and it really makes it so the whites pop and they're super clean. I'm actually gonna lighten the shadows so that I can see a little bit more detail of what's going on in the back, but lower the black so that the photo still holds its contrast. Because there's a lot of leaves and stuff, I think it could be cool to add some clarity to this. We're gonna do that, but be a little careful. If you go too far, it just doesn't look real. For the tone section, I'm not even gonna touch this, honestly, because we added contrast up above. It kind of does a similar thing. But what I am gonna do is I'm gonna come down here to HSL and color. I'm gonna go to luminance, and I'm gonna find the greens, and I'm gonna lower them because they're distracting to my eye. I'm also gonna come in on the luminance of my skin, which is the orange. I'm gonna lower it a little so my face isn't bright. Then we're gonna go over to saturation. Here, I'm just gonna rip the greens out, and instantly look what it did to the photograph. Personally, like I said, I don't really like green. It doesn't fit my feed, so I try to cancel it out whenever I can. Now, the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to bring up the yellows. That puts a little bit of color back into the leaves. I'm going to adjust the orange to where the skin tones are where I like them, but honestly, the aqua, the blue, the purple, these colors don't even exist in this photograph, so it doesn't matter. Then I'm gonna go to hue. Now, hue actually changes individual colors, like the tone of them. So if I go to the green, you can see what I'm talking about here. If I take it down, it goes to a yellow, and if I take it up, it goes to a really weird turquoise. So honestly, I'm quite happy with where it is right here in the middle, but the yellow leaves in between the green ones are gonna be changed with this yellow slider here. We're gonna go to detail. I really like sharp images. We're gonna add some sharpness. I do no noise reduction. Now, this calibration setting right here is actually my secret weapon when it comes to editing. I'm not going to use it a ton on this image, but this is a section of Lightroom that most people do not use, and I will show you on another image very soon just how much of a difference that can create. This, for me, would be a very fine final image. So this is the before and after of the image we just edited. As you can see, there is so much more depth in the grass. My skin tones are at a much better place. Everything's sharp, nothing's overexposed. Honestly, I am pretty happy with that. Let's just move on to the next. So the next image is actually going to be me and Angelique at the beach. So as you can see, it's kind of a blown out image. The background is super bright, and the front of the image, or us, is very dark and you can't see much. We are going to try to change this one dramatically with something that I created in the first preset pack called HDR Portrait. So this crazy before and after is after applying my HDR Portrait preset. It's a little intense, so we are going to try to recreate this without using the preset that I'm actually not sure if I know how to do this. Some of my presets took me days to create, let alone a couple minutes, but let's try. So as I said, this image really suffers from a lot, the first of which will be fixed by bumping up the clarity. It's just too soft. I want to see more. I want to see more of what's going on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the contrast. I'm going to lower the highlights so that I can start to see the sky again. And then I'm going to bring up the shadows so that I can start to see what's actually the detail underneath. Already, that's a pretty night and day difference. We're gonna bring up vibrance and bring up saturation a ton. Do not worry about how crappy it looks at the moment. We're gonna fix that here in a second. Now again, for this image, I am not gonna go into the tone curve because I did a lot of it in the sliders right here. So we're gonna jump straight down to HSL and color. First off, the oranges are just too bright. We're gonna go into saturation. We're gonna bring down the oranges. We're gonna bring down the reds. We're gonna bring down all the colors that are bugging us in the background. Next, we're gonna go into luminance and we're gonna lighten a few things. I'm gonna lighten the blues just a tad so that they pop. Now, one thing I'm gonna do here is this orange that's bugging me in the back, I could desaturate that, but instead, I'm actually gonna raise the luminance of it so that it gets brighter and brighter until it disappears and fades into the already bright background. Something most people don't do, but it actually saves the colors in your image that you're not trying to take out. Now I'm gonna actually flip back over to saturation and I'm going to pump up the blues and the aquas and all of the colors of the sunset. Now for this type of image, I want there to be a lot of sharpening going on so that everything looks really crisp and vivid. So I'm gonna raise the sharpening here. Again, I'm not gonna touch the noise reduction. And I'm gonna come down here to camera calibration. Now here, I don't really know what I'm gonna do yet, but I'm gonna just play with the sliders and see how it affects the image. Now, these sliders actually work together. So by sliding one, you have to slide the others to kind of counteract it. We're gonna add red primary, and then we're gonna balance it with blue primary, and look at this color in the back. Now the saturation's too high, so we're gonna go back up, and we're now gonna start dialing back the saturation to where it looks right, but what's important is the color is good. So now let's look at this image before and after. Like honestly, look at that. That is literally night and day difference. Now this next image is actually one of my favorite images I've ever captured in my entire life, as well as being one of the hardest coloring edits I've ever done. This is based around the preset called the Instant Banger, which is my favorite preset I have. It's part of my second pack, but you can see it literally takes this underexposed image and just brings it to life. I am going to try to recreate this type of color right now for you. I honestly don't think I can. The Instant Banger preset from my second preset pack is the strongest preset I've ever created, and it's my absolute favorite, but let's just jump into it and see what we come up with. So to start off this image, I'd say we need to bring up the exposure a little because it's a very dark photograph. We're also gonna take the contrast in a little, but not too much that it darkens the image. We're just trying to create separation or depth in the photograph. So we're gonna bring down the highlights a little and bring the shadows up in an attempt to try to balance this photograph. We're gonna bring up the clarity just a little just so you can start to see it in the leaves. It's starting to look nice. So now we are going to close that and we are finally gonna go into the tone curve. So for the tone curve, I'm actually gonna do a reverse curve. I'm going to take away a little bit of the highlights, and I'm going to make the shadows a little brighter, which is exactly what we did up above. But now I'm gonna go into the red tone curve. Now, if you don't edit in the tone curve, you really should be. This is a very, very powerful place for your photo editing. You can see what I'll do here is create an S curve, and you can see it looks pretty intense now, but as I start to do the same curve to the other colors in the photograph, you can see that it'll actually start balancing itself out. Now, the colors look good, but you can tell there's too much contrast in this photo now. So we'll go back to the curve and we'll bring up the shadows a little bit more. This photo now isn't underexposed, it's well balanced. The sky has a nice orange glow to it. What else could we do to this photograph? Well, I'd say actually what we could do is definitely add a little bit of detail so that it really shines in the leaves. Sliding the green to the right doesn't really do anything. What happens if we go the other way? But this is the before and after. As you can see, that is quite a difference. Yeah, I mean, that was 5 minutes of editing. Whereas my Instant Banger preset, which is this one, took me hours. And it looks a lot more natural, but I gotta say, this still really works. This is still a great looking colored image, and I would be very fine posting this. So in all honesty, I don't wanna show you how my presets are made, like the inside, but as you can see, like, for the Instant Banger preset, if you go into the red, these tone curves have multiple points and they're all a little different. This is what it can look like if you really take your time, or buy presets that already do it and then go look at what they did so that you can try it on something else. I honestly think this might be my favorite before and after. This is the Instant Banger preset. As you can see, like in a field of green, which I don't like, look at how it brings out the oranges. It really adds the depth back in the image that it needs to be appealing to the eye. But guys, I really hope you've taken something away from this video. The only objective for this was to try to show you how I might edit photos so that you can try to use it in your own work and hopefully take your editing to the next level. But as always, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in all of your growth as well as creating. And remember, stay motivated, stay inspired, and never stop creating. And I'll see you guys next week.